Okay, well, welcome everyone to HR Market Watch on the Talent Product Plays live stream. Excited to bring another breaking news live stream around a new venture capital round in HR tech. This one focused on recruiting and artificial intelligence and automation, but really addressing diversity and inclusion in the recruiting process and bias that's related to recruiting. So yesterday there was an exciting announcement and resulting coverage in VentureBeat on a new HR tech startup called Headstart, new to you anyhow. They raised $7 million to reduce bias in recruiting with AI. And I'm joined today by the Headstart CEO, Gareth Jones, who is an industry veteran, and he's been a friend of mine for a while. And he's here to talk about the round of funding and tell us a little bit about Headstart. Welcome, Gareth.
Hey, George. Good to meet you. Makes me sound old, industry veteran.
Welcome to the club.
Which I am.
Welcome. Yeah. Well, welcome. Yeah, I think we're probably similar. We look to be similar age. So tell everybody about yourself, and tell them why you're an industry veteran, I guess. How you got
it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I am. I've been around the industry, so it's my 32nd year, I think, working something like that. And I started my career in HR, classic big corporate HR, and I left after 10 years, because I guess seeking something different, and kind of fell into technology in the late 90s and the dot-com boom. And I've never really left that whole space. So several periods of working with startups, and then other periods working back into sort of consultancy, mainly between the two. And in between, I took a role to run a search and selection business in between. So I've kind of stayed in the space, but dipped into various different elements of it, but always with people in technology in the theme of it. And that's pretty much where I've been in all of my career, around that space.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I've been tracking Headstart since you went on board, but most folks probably aren't familiar with Headstart. So give us the backstory, when and how the company started, what brought you on board, why you became the CEO, and what brought the business to the point of raising this round. Which congrats by the way. I think I said that offline, but just
thank
congrats.
You. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. They say fundraising is a full-time job. They lied. It's like it's two people's job full-time at least. So our backstory. So we've been going quite a while. I think we came to market in 2016 or early 2016 initially as a marketplace for early talent, with again a sort of an underlying sort of purpose and remit to level the playing field for early talent. And we had some really great initial success with that. It was before my time. We had Vodafone, we had L'Oreal, and a few others on board. And it was a successful model, but ultimately, and I got introduced to Nick through the network. They didn't really have a huge amount of domain experience, Nick and Jeremy. So as I did, I spent quite a bit of time just talking to new startups and advising here and there and so on, which is usually a coffee or something, and a chat. And we got talking, and they asked me to join as an advisor, sort of the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. And just in talking that whole thing through, as how the model works, really the challenge with marketplaces, especially enterprise level, most enterprise companies that are large, if they're 100,000, if you're getting 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, and in some cases, obviously several million applicants a year, do they really need any more? That's not the problem. The problem is trying to find the individual in amongst all of them, and actually trying to find the right individual and be fair. And we knew that process was biased. So we wanted to kind of work a bit further down the funnel and not just hand off as sourcing. And also it's not particularly sticky as a business model or as an offering. So we were lucky enough to get a place in Y Combinator, which was fabulous for us. And that was the point at which we said we would pivot to become a SaaS product. And so we would effectively not source talent anymore, not supply talent, but we would put all of our energy into trying to, identify the right people from the incoming. And in fact, it was that Y Combinator program and how we were going to do that at which point, Nick asked me if I would join, on the back of the program, then as COO. And I joined because my previous 5-6 years with the chemistry group, who you'll know well, was all about, understanding human potential and finding the right person, irrespective of, forget their experience or what they appear to be, let's get to the right person. And we'd kind of done some digitizing of that kind of stuff at chemistry, as you know, and I guess Headstart was taking it to the next level in terms of full automation, full product, no consultancy around it. It was a pure tech play, and that's really what attracted me to the business. And 2 years on, we had a review last year, and I took on the role of CEO. But that's the primary reason I joined the business, because of the potential really and the purpose around driving this fairness, which I think is absolutely important.
Yeah. So let's dig into the product just, really quickly. And for everybody watching, or as this will be recorded, it'll be in Talent Product Plays for a while. If anyone has any questions, we can't take them live here, but just put them in the comments, and Gareth will reply at some point. I'll keep an eye on it and flag him, make sure he sees them. But when I look at the market, I see a lot of AI, and I see, there have been a lot of startups looking at reducing bias in the recruiting process, but they tend to be very narrow on, they're looking at the job description and fixing and reducing bias there, or looking at the screening process and reducing bias there. I see very few, if any at all, prior to Headstart, that are looking at 1, 2, or 3 of these parts of the process. So that's what really piqued my interest. And if you could tell everybody what those components of the product are, and sort of how you do introduce more fairness to the process.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point about the landscape. You asked me, what led us to raise the money and to go for the funding, and we've made significant bets on the enterprise space, where, as you all know, the HR technology that's delivered at the enterprise level is, I've said it before, it's the poor cousin of enterprise technology. So there are lots of issues, and consequently, we've got lots of these point solutions out there, trying to plug in and make a difference. And actually, that whole landscape has to change, because even where you've got integrated suites, the data is opaque. It's really difficult to get any insight. And as we've, some of the case studies we've worked on, it's really difficult to understand where problems are occurring, especially around bias. So our platform, effectively, it's from the apply button to hire. So we don't get into onboarding. We pass that information off into the HR system, or in the very tail end of it may be incumbent applicant tracking system in the early days, if they're not confident enough to swap it out. But we blend that sort of matching and overall management, and clearly we'd say we create a much better experience. But the science, the real key piece of it, comes in the data piece, in the matching. So, and I guess what we do and it's all about the data. So there are a couple of things we do. First of all, we work with the client to understand, what the essence is of the job. So what defines high potential in that job? And we do that by gathering data from employees about their current role, their past roles, their backstory, and performance data, anything we can get from the organization. And we sense check that to make sure there are no indicative signs or patterns that would suggest bias in it. And we put that into the model. And then where we don't just look at skills and experience, we look at a whole lot of other things. And I guess the key where we differ to other areas, one specifically, but the second thing we do is we go out and we pull in huge amounts of data sources around jobs and careers. So we look at CVs, we look at job ads, we look at job descriptions, And we bring all of that data so we can normalize it. So we can do two things. One, we can kind of say, this predict with quite accuracy whether this person is a senior level marketeer or a senior engineer or something.
Yeah.
And secondly, so we can create what we call a distance to learn model, which we continue to refine, which allows us to be able to say, that person, this person is a good match. You might not look at them, but they're not perfectly matched, but actually their distance to getting there is quite short. So you can consider this person for another role. And in fact, in the platform, there's an ability to take an individual and look at them against all of the roles you've got going. And we will be able to give you a matching against those other roles. And that can be done across recruiters. The third bit of data is probably one of the most interesting things. So the broad job data is kind of trying to normalize and level things out there. But the third piece is where we bring in sort of social demographics. So from wherever we can get it, we're looking for. So in the UK, we take postcode data, we take preschool meals data, we take school rankings and reports. And the idea there is so that we can actually identify sort of what we call social deprivation. And so if two people present themselves who look exactly the same, what we're aiming to do is to define the difference between the two. If there's been any disadvantage there in terms of people coming up through their education, particularly. So two first-class students from in the UK, Oxford, or in the US could be Harvard. One might have had an easier journey to that. They've got a stable family. They're both their parents together. They come from wealthy background. Somebody else might have been in a single parent, might have been a parent carer, or might have had to fund extra college tuition, but they ended up at the same place. But this person outperformed their peer group, given their complete backstory. And in the UK, if you do have certain level of social demographics, you can go and you can enter your A levels into certain online platforms, and what they'll do is they'll give you a valid grade adjustment based on those challenges that you've had through the education. So we pull all of that data together, and it's all of that goes into the blueprint of the matching. And then obviously when the candidate comes in, they create a profile, and we take, again, as much information as we can from them in as frictionless and as easy and as a good experience way as possible, and do the matching. And that would include their backstory so that we can hopefully identify that. So that all takes place in an organization's branded environment, like they're applying for a job with one of those companies. And obviously on the backside, the recruiter manages that process. But what we're aiming to do then is to deliver a match of an individual to that role, given all of those data points. And we obviously want to expand that. We want to look at more frictionless ways of doing it. We want to look for better data. We want to do it in other geographies. And we need to do it and want to do it at enterprise level. And that requires scale, obviously, and commitment and all those other things.
Yeah.
So we want to try and bring that, because it's clear that existing processes, without intention, are incredibly biased. So we want to try and affect that.
Yeah.
And it's in our DNA.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a very well known challenge. And to your point, it's a big challenge. And you've been at it a little longer than most of the companies that I see. So I think you've done a good job explaining the product and what's different. You've actually got some customers using it today, right? That are taking it, into new regions or new disciplines. Is that? Can you talk about that?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and one of our early adopters was Accenture, and we started work with them in the UK. And at the time, actually, we were coming in to an environment driven largely by Taleo or their own implementation of that process. And we were just able, luckily enough, to do sort of a kind of almost like a side-by-side comparison, which generated the case study, which ended up in the Mercer report. And we just worked with them. They've been great with us, in terms of a partner, and we've onboarded other clients. But in terms of a development partner and growth, they are our sort of blueprint, because they now work on our platform solely in the UK in graduate hiring. Same in Ireland. We grew into the island. Then this year we've onboarded their global MBA program, and right now we're deploying in North America for the campus, the entire campus recruitment in the US. And yeah, so it's that kind of model that we're aiming for. That's what we want to replicate. And really, I guess, why are they using us? Because a couple of reasons, I think. A, because of our intent. They really want to address fairness in the business, or whatever it is, whether it be ethnic, gender, or neurodiversity. That's something that's never talked about. Age, all of those things. And secondly, because I think one of the issues, as you'll know from the recent press, is transparency and explainability. And we've been through a process which was a learning curve for us, of course, but Accenture created an AI fairness review team to put all of the technology through and review. And we came through that because we are able to be, and we want to be, totally transparent with the data that we're using and how we use it. And I understand why some organizations or some products would consider that proprietary, but I'm not sure we can hide behind proprietary anymore when it comes to people, right? You can't explain it.
That's a really good point, and that's that sort of being open with the algorithms, the data, what you're doing with it, and being open to review from your customers and peers and improving it is the key to getting this right, or getting it as right as possible, is maybe the way that we look at this today. And there are a lot of vendors, I'm not going to name them, but there are a lot of vendors who have created a black box. And that's starting to get some into trouble right now. Let's just leave it at that.
No, that's totally true. And, we want to avoid that. And, we want to be, it's difficult, isn't it? Because, from all that I know from the history of around, let's take the Amazon example. That hit headlines last year. I think that was the catalyst for Accenture, particularly, and others, putting AI under scrutiny. And I think, to be fair, it's what we're not creating, and anybody who's dealing in machine learning and data science, you don't just build it and go. To build a data model, you have to kind of put data in. You have to train the models. You have to put more data through it, see what the results are, think about those results, put them back into the model. Really, you have this iterative process of refining the model, which can take a long time. And inevitably, you're going to get, in the early days, you're going to get results that you didn't want, potentially. And, from my understanding, Amazon were partway through this process and realized that, their data wasn't, or the data was showing things that the outcomes they didn't want. But as you know, it doesn't take much for a prototype team to say, we haven't got the data right at the moment. It's showing that, high performers are only males, for that to go out into the public domain, and all of a sudden it's a Sun headline. So it's really difficult to manage that, but you overcome it, I think, just by being open and being completely transparent with where you are with those models, and that you're going to continually develop them and share them.
Right. So it sounds like this year we can expect some extension of the product, but scale, right? You're looking at new markets, or what company headed?
So definitely product development. We're investing heavily in that now, and in engaging, doing product discovery, more and more, trying to build out that product side of the team. Because we just want to continue to understand what actually the problem is we're trying to solve in the market, and growth, in new markets. So clearly, here in your market in the US, and we're also, because some of our funding came from China, we're also doing a feasibility study there to see what opportunities lie in China, but also in the Asia region, and I suspect there'll be differences and other challenges there.
Oh, great. Wow.
So,
well, you got a lot on your plate. That's
fair old challenge.
You raise the money and then the work begins. That's
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So where can everyone learn more about Headstart?
Well, you can go to the website. Of course, we do have a website, which is www.headstart.io. Plus, you can also contact me or check us out on LinkedIn, anywhere else, and talk to Tom Price Daniel, our Chief Revenue Officer. He's always pleased to hear from people who want to know more about us.
I bet.
But yeah, you should. You should be hearing more from us anyway. But yeah, please get in touch if you want to talk about it, and it's just anybody who's interested in the field, because 18 months ago when we were looking to raise money, for this round and having conversations, when we were talking to investors, kind of like, diversity, fairness, it's not for us. It's a bit niche. There's nothing in it. And of course, 18 months later, it's big.
Right.
Everybody's talking about it. So it's a field that we just want to talk to more people about. So yeah, if people want to have a chat and talk about the whole direction of travel in the market, I'd be really interested, and as we would anybody in our team.
Cool. Well, so this is recorded. It'll be here in Talent Product Plays exclusively for a while. It'll then go up on HRWins, and along with publishing it on HRWins, you've got some screen grabs that you sent over. So I'll share those and a link to the VentureBeat article. If you could pop over a link to that Mercer report
yes,
that you mentioned, I think folks would love to see that as well, given the research that was done there. Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff in there. A lot of stuff is good report, but I'll pop that over.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for being here, and I know you've got a lot on your plate. Thanks for
always
the time.
A pleasure.
All right, it's great to see you, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks everybody for listening in.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and see you soon, George.
All right,
thanks for inviting.